Nigeria's history is filled with stories of resilience, ambition, and untapped potential. Yet, many aspects of our history have been misrepresented or oversimplified. One of the most common misconceptions is the belief that oil brought prosperity and economic stability to Nigeria. While oil provided the country with vast wealth, it also led to a pattern of economic dependency, corruption, and underdevelopment that continues to haunt us today. As we reflect on the past, it becomes clear that Nigeria was already on a promising trajectory before the discovery of oil. The country had a thriving agricultural sector that sustained millions and placed Nigeria on the path to industrialization. However, the oil boom of the 1970s changed everything, and the consequences of that shift are still evident. This is the story of how oil shaped Nigeria, both its rise and its fall, and why we might have been better off without it. Before the discovery of crude oil in commercial quantities in 1956, Nigeria's economy was primarily agrarian. Each region of the country had its own mature economic activity, and these industries played a crucial role in trade and development. The northern region flourished with groundnut, cotton, and millet farming. Cities like Kano and Sokoto became commercial hubs, trading goods across West Africa and beyond. The western region was known for cocoa production, which fueled significant economic growth. Cocoa exports from Nigeria were among the highest in the world at one point. The eastern region dominated the palm oil trade, supplying products to European industries. Palm oil was so valuable that it was referred to as red gold. These industries were the backbone of Nigeria's economy. The country was self-sufficient, with a diverse range of exports bringing in steady revenue. Cities were expanding, local industries were developing, and Nigeria was on the path to becoming an economic powerhouse in Africa. However, everything changed when crude oil was discovered in Oloibiri, present-day Bayelsa State. The discovery of crude oil was initially met with great excitement. It was seen as a game-changer, an opportunity for Nigeria to become as wealthy as countries in the Middle East. By the 1970s, following the Nigerian Civil War, oil revenue skyrocketed due to a global increase in oil prices. Suddenly, Nigeria found itself awash with money. It was during this period that General Yakubu Gowon, Nigeria's head of state at the time, famously declared, "Nigeria's problem is not money but how to spend it." This statement captured the recklessness with which the newfound wealth was handled. Instead of using oil revenue to strengthen the economy through diversification, agriculture and manufacturing were abandoned. The government embarked on extravagant projects, many of which were poorly executed or never completed. Neglect of agriculture, farmers left their fields to seek government jobs and contracts in the cities. Nigeria, once a major exporter of agricultural products, became a net importer of food. Rapid urbanization without planning, cities like Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Abuja grew rapidly, but without the necessary infrastructure. The result was congestion, inadequate housing, and poor sanitation. Corruption and embezzlement, the sudden influx of wealth led to widespread corruption. Public funds were mismanaged, and leaders prioritized personal enrichment over national development. Dependence on oil revenue, the economy became solely reliant on crude oil, making Nigeria vulnerable to fluctuations in global oil prices. In the 1980s, the illusion of endless wealth came crashing down. Oil prices plummeted, and Nigeria faced an economic crisis. The country, having abandoned agriculture and manufacturing, had no alternative sources of revenue. The government struggled to pay salaries, industries collapsed, and inflation skyrocketed. Nigeria had to turn to international organizations like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank for loans. These loans came with harsh conditions, including structural adjustment programs that led to the devaluation of the naira and widespread job losses. This period marked the beginning of Nigeria's deep economic struggles. The country, which had once been a self-sufficient producer, became dependent on imports for basic goods. Unemployment rose, crime increased, and poverty deepened. It is tempting to wonder, would Nigeria have been better off without oil? Had Nigeria remained focused on agriculture and manufacturing, the economy would likely have developed gradually, much like those of the United States and China. These nations built their wealth over centuries by creating value, rather than relying on a single resource. Consider Malaysia, a country that once looked up to Nigeria as an economic model. In the 1960s, Malaysia took palm oil seeds from Nigeria and invested heavily in the industry. Today, Malaysia is one of the largest exporters of palm oil in the world, while Nigeria's palm oil industry has declined significantly. Without oil, Nigeria might have continued to develop its agricultural and industrial sectors. Cities would have grown at a sustainable pace, corruption might not have been as rampant, and the country would not be at the mercy of global oil prices. While we cannot change the past, we can learn from it. The consequences of oil dependency are clear, but there is still hope for economic transformation. Diversification: Nigeria must return to agriculture, manufacturing, and technology as key drivers of the economy. Investment in these sectors will reduce dependence on oil and create long-term stability. Accountability and governance: corruption remains one of Nigeria's biggest challenges. Strengthening institutions and holding leaders accountable will help ensure that public resources are used for development. Investment in infrastructure, roads, electricity, and modern facilities are necessary to support economic growth. Instead of relying on oil revenue, Nigeria should attract investments in industries that provide long-term benefits. Education and innovation: countries that thrive in the modern world invest in education and technology. Nigeria must prioritize human capital development to compete on a global scale. Despite the challenges, Nigeria remains a country of great potential. It is rich in natural resources, home to brilliant minds, and blessed with a resilient population. The mistakes of the past should serve as lessons for future generations. Oil did not bring us the prosperity we hoped for, but it does not define Nigeria's destiny. If we acknowledge our history honestly and commit to change, there is still a bright future ahead. I believe Nigeria would have been better off without oil. Nevertheless, I love my country.